Welcome to Change the Narrative. I'm your host, JD Fuller.
I'm Suzy Younger,
an African-American licensed psychotherapist.
I'm also a licensed therapist.
We talk about the isms. We talk about the phobias. Anything that marginalizes and oppresses.
As a white woman, I ask the questions white people are too afraid to ask.
Everything we are not and everything we are is because of fear.
Through a mental health lens, Suzy and I will have difficult conversations with celebrity guests, political activists, and everyone in between.
Our mind will tell us whatever we want to believe, but the truth lives in the body, and that's where change occurs.
Are you ready to change the narrative?
But thank y'all for having me again. I'm so excited to talk with you guys, man. It's so dope. You know what I'm saying? It's family. I'm back with the family. I'm back with the family.
Exactly.
I'm back with the family.
I love it. I love it. It's so great to have you back, man. It's so great to have you back. Thanks again for agreeing to come back. And I had so many feelings watching your work.
Right.
I have to watch it a few times, truth be told, because so many feelings come up. I find myself wondering about your thought process. So let's get right into it.
Yeah.
Talk to us about the trend. You know what I mean? Like while I'm watching it, feelings are coming up, but then I'm also trying to get in your head and so I want to get ready and ask you. So talk to us about the transition in school after your first short. Like, what was that like for you? So you did it. It was great. What happened?
I think what happened was I was writing a script. I wrote a script, a feature script, and then it was pretty good, really good. And then that got me like some representation, like an agent and a manager, and they all knew that I wanted to like turn it into a movie. I wanted to write and direct, and they said, if you're going to do that, you need to do a proof of concept short film. So I took some of the ideas from my feature script and came up with like a story like in the world of my feature script, right? And so this short film that you saw is a proof of concept with some of the characters in the feature film, and that's how it came. That's how it came about. And so, and so it was a long process because we shot during COVID. It was a long process to try to figure out like how are we going to? Because we shot in my backyard, by the way. That was like my backyard and my neighbor's. Yeah, my backyard and my neighbor's front yard is what we like used. Is what we used. So it was just in the neighborhood, and it's just in the environment, and so that was really dope to do. It was also kind of scary. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it was weird. It was really weird because I was like, can I pull this off? It was a lot of pressure. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like I was just making it free with no like expectation. There's expectations for this from the beginning. Like the expectation was it was going to be a proof of concept for my feature film, the feature script that I wrote, so we could package it and show it to people and be like, here's a script. Also, here's a short film that he did. And he's trying to make a movie, right? And it was really my first time doing something like this, you know, because Black Boys Can't Cry was like basically 5 minutes. It was 2 days. It was like no dialogue. It was very visceral, actually, for me and my DP. Sort of like it just kind of dumped out of my soul, right? Whereas this was very complex. This is a very complex, very technical. I'm bouncing multiple genres, not multiple genres. I'm bouncing like comedy, tragedy, trauma. I'm trying to be honest and authentic, but also a bit fairy tale-ish. I'm trying to balance innocence, resilience, like death, grief, trauma with some levity, you know. And I think that's just difficult. That's just difficult to pull off. You know, difficult, but you know. And that's sort of in terms of like logistical process. In terms of like emotional process, really it's just me thinking, like, I think we all just laugh at funerals, what I always say. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we all laugh at very dark things. You know what I'm saying? I think all of us being therapists, I think we all know, at least for me, maybe my style. Maybe it's my style. But I always feel like the funniest, my sessions with the most traumatized people can be some of the most funniest. It can be also some of the most emotional, but it can be also some of the most funny. I think AA meetings are hilarious. You know what I'm saying? I think meetings with addicts are hilarious. Like the stories they tell, all types of shit is crazy, you know? And I feel like I'm trying to like get to like the real dark things that people talk about or don't want to talk about, but like also realize that there's also some humor in this that can help us connect to each other in a different way. I think humor can deflect, as we all know, we can use humor to deflect from real shit. But I think humor can also be a way to connect us deeper to each other. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I can tell you the conversation I had with one client a long time ago, and it was like, yes, and I was on meth, and I don't know what happened, and all of a sudden I woke up, and I was like, there's like 3 dudes in my bedroom, and it was like, Vic, I don't know, I think I was sucking dick. I was like, I was like, and he was laughing, and I was laughing, and it was just like this really dope way for him to connect with me about something like that happened. That he was like, man, I was doing this, and I don't know, it was just, and I've always felt that humor allows us to be with each other in a different way. Like my family talks about very violent, traumatic things and laughs about it. Like I've been with people and we got like shot at, and it was the funniest thing for like 3 weeks afterwards, you know? I still have memories of being poor and like eating out of a trash can. And I thought it's still a hilarious story to me. I was like, there was a pizza there. and I was like, why did I eat that? You know? So it's just, and I'm trying to find, I'm not saying I've mastered it yet, but I'm trying to find that place that connects us as human beings, and the place where we all sort of grieve together, sort of like in the sort of like social unconscious, like collective unconscious, where we all can grieve together, but where we all can like, I think laugh. I think a little bit of humor tells me that that's a way we can connect, particularly for Black people. Black people are just very good at laughing. Yeah. I think that's one of our main ways we cope is like music and laughing at things, like very crazy things that happen, and people are just like having jokes. So I'm trying to do something. Not sure if like I said, I'm not sure if I've yet fully mastered it yet, but I'm still pushing towards like, and I'm adding the innocence. I wanted to feel a little innocent, like there's some resilience that happens with children. You know what I'm saying? I know we always talk about the loss of innocence. I think about like how innocence maintains even in the face of chaos and trauma. I mean, lots of innocence is lost for sure, but sometimes for a good number of people, I think innocence is highly resilient and doesn't like leave. And so I'm trying to combine.
Yeah, no, I see that. Look, it's very clear. Needless to say, Suzy and I are fans for life.
Right.
Right. And so just loving you and loving what you're doing, it's incredible in and of itself. But then you add in the complexity, which I definitely saw in Hallelujah. I mean, I saw it in the first one too. I saw it in the first one. Never so brief, still complicated in and of itself. Right. But with this one, everything that you just said came to life.
Yeah.
Like you did that. Right. You maintained, and I don't want to give it away because it's so good.
Oh, it's fine.
You maintain you maintain the innocence of Hallelujah while also depicting how smart he is.
Yeah.
Like he's so smart, and he's emotionally intelligent.
Right.
He's introspective and emotionally intelligent, and he's trying to figure it all out. At the same time, being provocative. Yeah. And way over his uncle's heads. They're just like, brother, what are you doing?
Right.
But he's not so far gone that his little sister couldn't reach him.
Yeah.
And connect. And very intimate. I mean, I went between laughing and crying, just back and forth, because that's how perfectly, really, I'm not even being hyperbolic, like how perfect the timing was between each action, and it's so well done. So I see why Sundance, not that I believe in awards, make my disclaimer, it's great because it's great, but I also see how it's seen. You know what I mean?
Hey, it helps. Listen, it helps. I'm gonna tell you something.
Yeah. It's a means to an end.
It's helpful. I'll tell you that. Yeah. I'll tell you that for real.
No, you got to get the cred.
Yeah, you're right. I love what you're saying, because I think that, yeah, he's just a smart kid. He's trying to figure out. I don't mind. We can spoil all day. I mean, like, he's dealing with suicidal thoughts. He's like, there's death, there's killing, like all these things. I'm like, he's just like a little kid. He's like, what's happening? You know what I'm saying? And maybe his uncles, I don't know, maybe his uncle's so desensitized. They're like, I think
Yeah.
I try to make them like more stereotypically like black malehood. You know what I'm saying? Like more what we would think of a stereotypical black male, you know what I'm saying? And then make him
Yeah.
sort of odd and then have like the clash of things in like in Compton, you know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
like
But you did something else, Vic. You did something else. You made them, desensitized in a way that African American males have
right,
to move through the world. They
right,
have to. It's a coping strategy. It's a survival skill.
100%.
So they have no choice but to move through the world in that way.
Yeah,
Yet you were also able to show what really exists within
yeah,
them. Right? Because there was like this bravado, but at the same time, you saw the depth of the sensitivity. You saw
right,
their panic. You saw their emotion, and that again, just another complexity that's just so
yeah,
smart and so Afrocentric, which I appreciate.
yeah. Yeah, and I know JD, when we've talked before, like just about black, just in our
Mhm.
personal conversations, it's like black men
Yes.
having to be a certain way. I actually had a conversation with someone just the other day about men and black men, and I was like, well, the same thing I'm saying is that I don't think black men are really allowed, and it could be dangerous. It could be dangerous
Yeah.
to lower your defenses. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
you're asking black men to be more in tune and to be more. That's the thing. Tell black men to go to therapy. Do da 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 da. You know what I'm saying? Black men should do this. And I'm like, well, you're asking them to do something which is potentially dangerous and is very specific to being a black male. Like do this and what happens. You know what I'm saying? Well, like do this and
Right.
what happens. Not to mention the requirement of black men, like protect black women isn't just like a phrase out of nowhere. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
black women have always required. Now, whether or not we do a good job of that or not, I'm not saying black men do a good job, but protect black women is a phrase that indicates to me that black women have always required of their men to protect them, you know what I'm saying, in some way, whether emotionally, spiritually, physically, etc. And have we been up to task? I mean, looks like what I'm hearing is not. What I'm hearing is not, and so I feel like I ask myself, why is that the case? I'm like, I it's difficult to protect when you hate yourself. I think it's difficult to protect when you're in bondage. It's difficult to do these things. So I'm just attempting to figure out the ins and outs of being a black male, and like I would love to restore us to our former greatness, whatever that means. But I like us to something. You know what I'm saying? And like I tell you, JD, I like for black men and black women to just to be in harmony again. You know what I'm saying? I like for us to just be with each other one more time, and also
Look,
be with the world. So yeah,
yeah, no, look, as you said, you and I have gotten into depth about this. It's so layered that I
yeah,
think I think it's a misnomer. What's happening on the internet now is it's a big black men, you need to do this, black men, you need to do that. And I don't think it respects the nuances. It doesn't tell the complexity of the story. It
right,
doesn't tell the many ways in which black men have to be. It
right,
just says do this,
yeah,
as if it's another task, and it
right,
doesn't really give the whole picture, which I think is problematic because it makes black men feel like you're still not doing things right, and black men, women, you want too much, and that's the narrative that the media runs with.
mhm,
And the minute they see, what's one of the first things they said this week was the newly elected judge, Kantanji. Am I saying it right? Kantanji. They said her husband supported her in the way in which a husband should support his wife. And I
mhm,
thought, wow, wow. So this week we're going to compare the lives of black men to
right.
white men who happens to be a white husband in this situation as the idealized. Like, do they ever get tired of finding ways to diminish black men in our country? And the answer is no.
Not at all. Shout out to Katanji though, but yes,
Right on.
shout out to Katanji. But
Yeah.
I agree. It's difficult, and I think I've tried to. I don't know. Um, I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm trying to be as authentic as I can in this conversation. I think I feel tired of some of the discourse. I think the discourse is exhausting me. I feel more exhausted. Probably maybe because it's an internet thing. I don't know, but I feel more exhausted with the discourse. and I'm trying my best to just like, how can I just do my thing? I guess I know. How can I do my thing, my little piece and my little part, and how I can figure out like, here's what I can do over here, and how can I figure out what's going on with like black men and black people creatively and therapeutically. You know what I'm saying? Like, how can I figure this out? Then how can I get us to be more honest? I desire more so than everything for us to like not be emboldened to how white people tell us to talk about things. More and more so. I'm more and more, but like I really don't. I really don't like. I really get frustrated when I feel like we're talking about our shit in the way that non-black people wants to talk about it. You know,
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more.
And I get very frustrated. And I get very frustrated. And so I think even Hallelujah, I think when I was writing it, I felt that little. I felt a little like in the back of my head, it needs to be like this. Don't offend this, and not that it's an offensive movie, but I'm saying I can still feel like the like, hey, you should do this, or you should do this, or you should do this, you should add this, you blah blah. I felt it when I was writing it, and that was difficult for me to like just sidestep. You know what I'm saying? And I just wanted to be as honest. And sometimes me being honest is like, I want to be able to talk about like the violence in our communities without feeling this like I need to like hedge it because white people are listening. You know what I'm saying?
But that's reality, though. But that's reality.
I want to talk about like, yo, hey, black, hey, bro, like you out here shooting people, like what the fuck you doing, bro? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I want to be able to talk about the real, but it feels so difficult. It feels so difficult because then it's like, on one end, I make white people see. He's talking about black. He's saying he agrees with black and black violence. You know what I'm saying? He agrees. Yeah. Or like, see, he's like has a. I don't know, man. It feels weird. It feels weird for me.
Well,
you know
look, Vic. Let's start with the like. Let me just get in here. Let's start with the fact that there is every community crime against their own community within their own community,
for sure.
But yet it's phrased as black on black crime. That's just how it starts off. So the minute you try to talk to your brothers in the community and have a conversation about it, all of a sudden the light is on black crime. When there's white on white crime, there's Asian crime. There's crime. It's crime. Crime is based in poverty, not in people. Right. So it's problematic that the minute there's so many buzzwords that are ingrained in society to catch people's attention to say, see, he's even talking about, this shooting that happened as a big problem within the black community, as opposed to what it really is based in, which is poverty, lack of resources, mental illness, all the things that are in every community, but more so in communities that are impoverished. That's what's problematic about what you're saying. And this is what I'm saying, you had this this Will and Jada situation, which we will not get into, but as a result of that, they wanted to talk about how the new judge's husband behaved appropriately. And I was like, there's such a microscope on us. We can't do anything in the community without them finding a counter example of whiteness that was appropriate. And because he's married to a black woman, he gets to be idealized. It's just crazy. It's mind-boggling, but it's so real. So what you're saying is completely accurate.
Right. 100%.
I understand the constraints. I understand the constraints that you feel.
Yes. Hollywood specific. As I'm attempting to break in. You know what I'm saying? I'm attempting to break in and make a name as I'm sort of trying to climb up the ladder. I feel the restraints, and I just, I think what always centers me, which is a gratitude. I'm just grateful for like the people around me. You know what I'm saying? Grateful for like being able to make movies if I can, and opportunities to make more movies, and taking meetings with bigger companies. I feel the constraints, but I also feel the gratitude, and I try to be centered in that. And I try to be like, I'm just gonna do me, and we'll see what happens. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm gonna do me, we'll see what happens. And I'm in a different place now. I think JD and Suzy, I think particularly JD knows, because JD was the professor. I was turning up in your class on these white folks. Listen. I was turning up on these white folks in your class, man. I was turning up on white people in your class, bro. And as I look, I remember me and you had conversations afterwards, like, "Hey, Vic, well, you got to work on that communication. You got to figure out how to communicate a bit more effectively. You know what I'm saying? So they can hear you, or just so you can be an effective communicator." And I've always taken that, and also I just realized like my own anger, how angry I was at that time. You know what I'm saying? How angry I was at that time for all types of reasons. And I feel getting a little older, seeing the world, getting more in tune with like class, a lot more with a lot more of like the class issues that I'm seeing that seems to be impacting us. I have a lot more I'm not gonna say do I have. I guess here's what I want to say. Which sounds funny. I should never be feeling sorry for white men. Bro. White women got me feeling bad for white men.
Because I'm telling you, Vic,
you got me feeling bad for white men, bro. I promise you. I be feeling.
I know.
Like, man, sheesh, these white men are getting it right
now. Yeah.
These white boys are getting it right now. They can't do shit right. I'm over here feeling bad for them. So
yeah, because patriarchy and white supremacy is constructed in such a way that the feminist agenda, much to people's dismay, is in cahoots, if you will, with the protection of patriarchy. And so when it looks like their men are being, ridiculed, picked on, whatever, they find a way to come in and protect them, because in the end it's protecting whiteness. It's in protection of whiteness. That's the construct. By any means necessary. They've taken ours and they've used it in that way. Yeah. So here's what's additionally interesting about that is, that's where our own training in white supremacy takes over. This idea of we are constantly, have internalized the messages at such a deep level that I call it internalized depression. It's like racism's always at work, telling us, don't say that, don't do this. I mean, that we've been trained in it. So I'm not surprised that you are wrestling with, boy, have some compassion, and at the same time, what does that mean? Why am I feeling sorry for white men? I get it. It makes sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, and part of it's both. I think it's for me, it's complex, because I think it's both. It's like on one end, it's like, yeah, it's like, giving more space to like, white folks. But also part of it's like, I think white women just got so bad. I think white women got so bad that I'm like in like more of a, probably like more of a humorous way. I just be feeling bad. I'm like, man, y'all got to deal with these Karens. I don't know what to tell you, bro. You know what I'm saying? And like as I look back over my life, outside of like beautiful, like I have like such beautiful relationships like Suzy, and there's other people, other white women have been so just incredible to me. There have been some of them, my most intense racial situations have been with white women.
Oh, interesting.
Like, yeah, like my most intense, my most overt, I guess I would say overt, like being called the N-word. Anytime I've been called the N-word, has been by a white woman, anytime. And so I made like 4 times in my life. If any like situation, I stole something, it was a white woman. It promise you, every time it's been with the white woman. There might have been one situation with the white boy, but it was like nothing happened. Nothing really happened. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I will say the white men have been more police stuff, which obviously is very intense.
Right.
The police stuff has been white men. In terms of like being stopped or being pulled over, but like in terms of like just day-to-day interactions, the most intense stuff has happened via white women, and so that's just has an aside. That's just like sort of like a funny anecdote to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
for sure. No, it's definitely interesting.
Yeah. But
let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Say, look. You don't have to say the white women have been incredible to you. You've been incredible. So if people are incredible to you, it's, you get back what you put out.
Boom.
And so it's an exchange.
I appreciate that.
It's an exchange of sorts. You've been very generous emotionally with
Right.
people in the school, with friends you've obtained in your life. Nobody's done for you what you haven't given back. So let's just make that clear.
That's great to hear.
The other thing is, yeah, so it's very true. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit to kind of have you work out of the duality, which you already do naturally, but
Right.
I want to name it.
Sure.
What goes on in the mind of a therapist who's turned creative? So the mind of a therapist that's turned creative. What goes on in your mind about the stories that need to be told and why?
It's a great question. No one's framed it like that.
Thanks, bud.
People like ask me like, "Oh, how is it for you?" But what goes on the mind of a therapist who turns creative? Shit. So I want to say that on a maybe energetic level, there's a certain. I mean, I think we all know what it means when we're in a session with someone, right? And it's there, like the spirit's there. You know when it's one of those sessions, like all the stuff is in there, all the messiness and all it's there. There's authenticity happening. Person is they're either dumping or whatever's happening, like you're connected. And I feel like there's that thing when I can feel people asking me, Vic, I'm suffering. Am I going to be okay? Right? And that sort of like interaction, which makes me feel this like, I don't know, like when someone's, I don't know, like, but they're looking at me to like, they're authentically saying I'm in pain. Well, what am I going to do? Do you think I'm going to be okay, Vic? And that's how honest they are. I feel out of my depth. And also I feel like a sense of like responsibility. You know what I'm saying? I also feel a sense of like, well, it's also not my responsibility, but I feel the sense of like care, like, wow, like, I don't know, and I feel that same sort of energy when I'm like writing and creating. Like there was this weird out of depth, like I'm attempting to figure out suffering and being a witness to suffering, but like make it entertain, but like trying to figure out like, what are the ins and outs. And it feels very similar to me when I'm in session. There's some similarities energetically that I didn't think we're going to be there, right? I didn't think we would be there. And I would argue that therapy has been a big training ground, honestly, particularly actors. Yeah.
That makes so much sense. As you say that, what comes up for me is, you've been doing your own personal work for a while. You do work as a therapist, and then it sounds like there's some permission for this authenticity to emerge that is collaborative between those two parts of self.
Yes, I think that's great. I think that's a great way to put it. I would agree. I think someone's in the session, someone's inviting me to do something, and I'm inviting them into an experience. And I think when someone's watching a movie, but also on set, when I'm with actors and I'm with even the team, like I'm inviting everyone to do something that's, can be scary. And particularly my brand of stuff that I'm talking about, which is on some level always dealing with trauma and suffering, regardless if it's funny or dramatic or whatever, or entertaining. There's always a level of like trauma I'm attempting to like look at, or human suffering that I'm attempting to like think about, And so on that level, that's been like surprisingly very similar. The same way I feel in session, the same way I sort of feel when I write, when I'm on set. The other thing that's been helpful has been like when I went to AFI was the amount of personal work that I did versus what everyone else did. So I would argue like in my level of expertise and craft was down at the bottom, but I like gained ground quickly in my first semester at AFI. And I think most of that was because of the amount of personal work I had done, the amount of like introspection and awareness I had about the human experience, right? And so that like jumped me up as I kept learning craft. Whereas others may have been had a lot of experience doing things. They probably were not as in tune with themselves and probably weren't as in tune with like other human beings as much as I was, I think. right? And so that was super helpful.
Yeah.
That was super helpful.
Well, and let's not forget that you happen to be incredibly emotionally intelligent.
Yes.
Which is a big part of it.
Right.
That's a big part of it. A lot of people are book smart, but there's not a lot of people who are emotionally intelligent at the level that you are. So you came in having, been in the process of this work, having this gift of emotional intelligence, and then having to learn the things you didn't know. But you put that together, and that's a beautiful collaboration. So I just see nothing but great things coming from it.
Yeah. As we're talking,
let's talk about the characterization. Oh, go ahead. Finish.
Well, real quick, I just want to give a shout out to my DP, my cinematographer. His name's Robert Hunter. He's native and indigenous, and he's like a very similar like. I should have told him to come on. I should have told him to come with me to this thing. I think he would have.
Yeah.
I think it would have been a great conversation. This conversation me and him had about him being indigenous and native, and me being black, and the way that we thought about images and pictures, and like he's a kindred spirit, JD. So the next time.
I love that. Well, now you just gave me an excuse to come back on.
Yes, for sure. For sure.
I'd love to have you both on.
Yeah.
That'd be great. So, I want to talk about the characterizations.
Yeah, sure.
The casting, acting, just so on point, like just so well done. I felt like I know these people. They felt like they were fam. Mm-hmm. And so talk about that. What was your strategy with developing these characters and picking the people you picked?
Well, it happened a lot of it sort of happened at the last minute, to be honest. It happened last minute because
really?
Yeah, it was during COVID. It was during COVID when we shot. So some things, like I would say, Chetty, like Richie Loco. He's like an Instagram comedian, and he was the guy with the bald head. You know what I'm saying? He's actually like on Insecure. He's on Insecure, but my first AD.
Oh, that's what you look for.
Yeah, he's on Insecure. My first AD knows him, and so asked him, did a favor for me, asked him if he could come on. So and that was really dope.
Great.
The other guy, Paper, the guy with the like little locks. He, another person had talked to him about me. So those two people I got through I found through other people. So that was really good and just ended up working out well. Initially, though, I kind of wanted. I changed some things. So I wanted initially like for them to be like both like gang bangers, basically. You know what I'm saying? I wanted both to be like gang banging, you know what I'm saying? And then, but they changed and they changed and they morphed as I kept like processing through, and it ended up being a bit more like just expansive in terms of characters. But I wanted them to be like, I wanted them to feel, like I said, like family. I wanted them to feel like bit stereotypical. I want to feel like, oh, yo, I know that guy. Like, I know that guy. Like, he's the homie down the street. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wanted to feel like that. And as for the kids, well, the kid was always very specific. I knew I wanted Hallelujah, the boy, to be like peculiar. I knew he was always. I knew I wanted to be odd. I wanted to be a bookworm. I want him to be very smart. I like the idea of a weird kid in a violent in a violent place. It's like I like the idea of this weirdo kid in the place that's extremely violent. And that's always been like this weirdo bookworm kid. Like what do you? He's so opposite of what we would think would be in the in the context, right? And so that I think that sort of thing always has interested me for like a long time. Like this type of kid in this type of environment, and how does this kid survive in this thing, right? And then I wanted them to be like the contrast between him and his uncles, because they're like, what's up with this weirdo? What's up with our nephew? He's so weird. You know what I'm saying? Like we can't take care of him. What? We don't know how to do. You know, it just amps up like they don't know what they're doing. And then Lila, the little daughter. I mean, it was sort of like. Like I said, the innocence, also like the innocence, and maybe even some of that maternal thing, even though she's just a little girl, she's 7. You know what I'm saying? Even some of that maternal thing, even some of the energy I know that I get from my black sisters and like my black female friends who like are supportive. You know what I'm saying? Like some of that but just like in the space of a little girl. So I was trying to figure out how to make it like not a big thing, not over the top, but something that felt germane for like a little girl might do. You know what I'm saying? Which is a bit innocent. She doesn't really know what's going on, but she kind of knows what's going on. You know, and she knows what's going on.
Right.
And so, and yeah, that scene where she like sort of like does faces with him to like get him out of his head, I think is a very powerful scene. You know, one of my more favorite scenes because it's like it says a lot without having to say a lot, right?
Well, and can I add that the fact that you just described it as that takes it even to a deeper level. Right. This idea that she embodies the spirit of a Black woman, the nurturing ability, the ability to fill the space as it's needed to be filled when it needs to be filled. Right. That's so profound, you know. And then it's all compacted into this little body.
Right. I mean, who'd have thought the grown adult males are trying to get him to calm down and figure out what's up, and they all don't know what they're doing, and all she does is sit and like make faces, and he's okay. You know what I'm saying? It's just very, very like very visceral to me. You know what I'm saying?
That's great, Vic. I love that. You're such a deep well.
Love it. Thank you.
So, in your own words, what does Hallelujah mean to you, and why was it important to make this?
I think it's important. Well, it's important for me to make this. Well, I've lost a lot of people. I think death is something which I tend to perseverate on. Like for whatever reason, I tend to think about death all the time. Death and loss. I think about it all the time. It's sort of like my thing, you know, and not in a suicidal way, but just in a thing that like,
I got it.
just in a thing that's like on my thoughts, like death and people dying and loss and my personal losses. And I've lost a brother to gang violence. I've lost uncle or granddad. Just we've all lost people, and I think of like, man, like I'm almost like, how do I grieve? You know, and sometimes I don't grieve well, and sometimes I do grieve okay. And so I'm always wondering, like, how do I grieve, or how can I grieve their passing? And I think for me, on a basic level, it's just like, I think for me, it's like I just want people to connect again with Black men in a way that's like yo, like we don't got it together, man. You know what I'm saying? Back to your original thing of what you said about being asked to do or show up a certain way. And I want to show up a certain way. And I want to continue to I want to do those things, but I also feel like I just want people to connect to our shit while we're forging ahead, while we're trying to hold our brothers accountable, while we're trying to hold our community accountable, while we're trying to be more protective and be more aware and do. I want also people to be like yo, like we got a heart out here, man. You know what I'm saying? And like no one's teaching us. No one's teaching. No one's taught us. We're not allowed to feel nothing. And I just want people to connect to suffering within Black men, Black people, and Black people as a whole. So it's important for me to show us it's important for me to invite an audience to be a witness to our suffering in a way that's connective and not a way that's expansive and not in a way that's like pushing people away. I'm not trying to do that. And also on a personal level, just a way for me to like process my own grief. You know what I'm saying? And process my own losses and the people I've lost and honor those people. And thirdly, just like I said this last time we were here, it's just big for me to like make people proud of me. You know what I'm saying? Who supported me. You know what I'm saying? People like you, like it's just important that for me that people are proud of the work that I'm doing and that my people know that my people who've invested in me get like a return. No, that's weird, but I want the people who've invested in me to be able to be like, oh, yo, that's my brother, that's my son, that's my nephew, that's my cousin, that's my friend, that's my mentee, that's my blah blah blah. Like, oh, look, you know what I'm saying? I get happy when my people are excited because they see me on something. That makes me happy. It's hard for me to celebrate myself, but I feel very excited when I know like JD or Suzy excited, like, oh, good job. You know what I'm saying? That makes me happy because the people who invest in me, I feel like they get a little bit. You know what I'm saying? They get to have a little bit. Like I know that. And so for me, those are big too. That's big too.
Well, you know, look, that's a part of your generosity. It's also finally believing you're deserving, which I can't think of another person who's more deserving. It's also us mirroring what we want you to feel inside.
Right.
The more excited I am for you, I think it's contagious, and you start to see, this is a thing. Like, I'm doing a thing here, and it's an important thing. It's important. Look, I love that you center your work and values in your Blackness. I think that we were drawn to each other right away because of that. And we started talking about this a little bit, but I just want to elaborate it as we start to wind down. Are you ever worried that you'll have to adjust that in an industry that, in order to draw a broader audience, because of, as you said, you got to make concessions, you got to deal with the constraints. You can't necessarily tell the story you want to tell, the way you want to tell it. Are you ever worried about that? Yeah,
I'm worried about that now because I know that. Here's the thing, I'm a backup because I'm gonna make sure I don't come off not like I'm not thinking, I'm not being sensitive or empathic. I'm gonna back up to say I think that's why I feel like Black people, we got to be able to be okay to talk about our things with us and not invite other people into the room. I don't want to invite white women or white men into dealing with us. I'm super fine being held accountable by Black women. Black women can hold me accountable.
Yeah.
Right? I want to feel like I can hold Black women accountable too. I want to feel like I can hold my Black children accountable. And I want them to feel like they can hold me accountable. Like, hey, Vic, Black men, y'all messing up. Y'all not doing what y'all said y'all supposed to do. Okay. I want that conversation to be with us though, right?
Right.
But my fear is because then I want to say, hey, I just want everyone to know that there's a Black male experience that's specific to us and no one else deals with these specific things. Homelessness, being indicted, police brutality, the metrics when it comes to those things are specific to Black men. And there's no one's coming to save us. There's no one there. There's not a white woman, not a white man, not a Black woman can save us from that. And Skid Row was half Black men. You know what I'm saying? Like there's no way around it. There's no way around it. And the indictments and arrests are police brutality. Like this happens to only us, right? And I feel like sometimes I'm not allowed to say that, right? And I feel part of it is because we've invited. I hate to tell you, we've invited some of this white feminism to I hate to tell you, you invite some of these white feminists because they'd rather not be held accountable for, like, well, listen here, white lady, you do know that like Emmett Till got killed because of y'all. You do know that. You do know that, right? You do know that, right? Like, and I feel like I want to have a conversation with us because then I can sit there and take it from a Black woman telling me, hey, Vic, this is how I felt. I didn't feel protected. I felt like you were violent, like blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to sit and take it and eat it. And as I should, right? And I can hold my bros accountable. But I also want to be like, here's our experience and here's what happens. So my fear is that as I'm moving forward, that sometimes maybe the stories I want to emphasize I won't be allowed to say them. Right. I have like a pilot and feature I'm working on right now, which is pretty intense. It's pretty intense. And I don't know. Part of me wonders like, this might be a bit too radical. It might be a bit too radical. You know what I'm saying? It might be a bit too radical. Like I think about the Judas and the Black Messiah. You know what I'm saying? Which was good movie. But be honest with you, how they handled like his politics, I think was watered. Like what he was, I was like, you know what he was really saying? He was, you know what he was really saying? Like it felt a bit like, and I don't know if that was because they had to. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that was.
I mean, how could it not be? Come on, Vic. How could it not be? How could it not be? You know, America is not ready for the real full story. It's why I get challenged on social media like, you're not oppressed anymore. What did somebody say the other day? Victimhood is very appealing. It's like, what are you talking about? Yeah. It's just, they just are not ready to hear the full impact of the story and the details, which is why we have to chop it up and deliver it the way that it's delivered. So I find it hard to believe there wasn't constraints on that. Speaking of constraints.
Yeah, and it was a good movie. I still loved it. I still love the movie, but I always wondered like they didn't they kind of kind of diet. It was diet Black Panther. It was low calorie Black Panther. It was a low calorie Black Panther movie. You know what I'm saying? But they did what they could. Bro. I felt so bad. Like man, you probably did the best they could. Try to get this out. I'm surprised to let them do that. So I mean, it was a good movie, and but I think about stuff like that.
No, I agree with you. I don't think you're making that up at all. Let me ask you, why are both films so important to you?
Well, I think artistically they show like my growth from like where I was at, which was
Mhm.
anger, a lot of. I think I was in my shadow. Like I think Black Boys Can't Cry is a lot of my shadow in it, so to speak. A lot of my
Okay.
shadow work, which is just a lot of pain, abuse, fear,
Hmm.
like, and it's just I'm dumping it. You know what I'm saying? I'm dumping it, right? And I think I had to do that in order to get to something which probably has a bit more light and hope, but still maintains
Okay.
a lot of the like the pain, but has a lot more hope to it, right? A little more light to it. And I think I needed to. So for me, they're important because one probably has just that's where I was at the time, and this one, Hallelujah, is
Yeah.
probably a lot more like how I am in real life,
Mm,
which is both like funny, dark, angry, like emotional, but like light, and hopeful. Like
hmm
I think it represents my personality a lot more, like how I actually show up in real life, like Hallelujah does. Whereas Black Boys Can't Cry is like the dark parts of me. You know what I'm saying? Like the dark hidden parts of me. You know what I'm saying? Like the dark, painful suffering that I don't either let people see or I just like walk around with it. Both are
And
important.
so
Yeah.
both are equally important. I love how you phrase that, but I want to do some reframing here. I
Yeah.
want to do some reframing.
Talk to me.
Uh, I never thought you were angry. You were never angry. You were in pain.
Hmm.
And so the idea that you brought your pain into a mental health format
Right.
to, show your pain was completely appropriate. So I don't want to, I want to move away from that. You weren't angry in grad school. You were dealing with your pain in a mental health environment. It's the way it's supposed to be.
Right.
And the second thing is that these are not dark parts of yourself. These are healing parts of yourself.
Hmm.
There's nothing, the way that dark is used is the way language about color is used.
Hmm.
It's always, dark, negative,
Hmm.
as if it's something that was wrong or is wrong. It's not wrong. It's
Right.
healing, and it is showing vulnerability to share
Right.
these parts of yourself the way that you do. So I just wanted to reframe both of those things to
No,
let
thank
it
you.
be known that
Thank you.
yeah,
I receive it. I
for
receive
real.
that.
There's nothing
I receive that. I receive that.
good.
I think. Yeah, it's interesting reflecting on the language that I'm using it's interesting you pointing out the language I'm using as I reflect on it because I agree with you. At the same time, I'm like anger is also powerful. You know what I'm saying? Um,
And there's nothing wrong with anger. There's nothing wrong with anger. I just want to be careful of depicting a period of your life as angry. That means,
yes, yes,
it's
yes,
just,
yes.
it's
No,
there.
I do resonate. I was in a lot of pain. I for sure was. For sure. For sure.
Mhm.
For sure. And I think that Black Boys Can't Cry had a lot of that, which was powerful and good for me to get it out in a very cathartic manner.
Mhm.
And Hallelujah is probably a lot. Again, Hallelujah's a lot more like part of stuff I want to. Well, I do want to make black. I do want to make both things, right? I do want to make both things, just in different ways. But Hallelujah is more how I am out in the world, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
Like I present a lot
Yeah.
more like that short film. Like that's. I think people meet me. If they watch the film and meet me, they're like, "Oh, that makes sense." You know what I'm saying?
hmm
Like that. Like those connect. Like I think I'm like that. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're like that. You're like all of that. And I
yeah.
want to say something I know I've said to you before, but it warrants repeating. Initially, I was sad when you were not going to be a therapist. initially I felt like, oh my God, what a loss, man.
Right.
We so need, we so desperately need a Black male with your level of racial identity awareness, with your level of emotional intelligence, in the mental health field. What you bring to the mental health field can't be taught.
Right.
So I felt a real loss, and I had a period of grief. However, I've completely accepted the fact that you need a larger audience. You need to be seen, and you need to have a much bigger stage to fulfill your purpose. So that's where I am now, and I wanted to share that with you because I sincerely mean it.
To be fair, I'm not gonna not be a therapist. I'm just probably not gonna do like a lot of one-on-ones, like a lot of like individual therapy. I think that thing, but I'm always still gonna do groups. Like that's not
exactly. And you're always a therapist.
Yeah.
So it's not that you've abandoned it, and you have talk about the group that you have, because I think it's so important.
Yeah, my Black male trauma group. We've actually put it on hold because I was doing the Sundance thing, so I needed like time to figure that out. But I should be restarting in like another month or two. And it's a Black male trauma group, which is Black men come together and basically we just process our trauma with each other. And it's super powerful. It's funny. It's very much similar to the movie, which is it's a lot of funny moments. It's a lot of shit talking and a lot of like moments where people are just crying and expressing like a lot of pain. And it's beautiful, man. It's beautiful when Black men get together and just like unequivocally are with each other in whatever ways, and we just figure it out. I always say there are no heroes, man. There's no heroes for us. No heroes for Black men. No one's coming to save us. No one's coming and so we got to figure it out together. And hopefully, as we figure it out together, we can show it better for our women and our children and our communities. You know what I'm saying? Because they need us. They need us, and they're asking for us to be better. And I want us to be better. So.
I think that I love my Black brothers. I will never ever talk poorly about them publicly. It's not what I do. I think there's a lot of healing to be done amongst us. And as you, do not like when people who are not in our community chime in with their opinions. Your opinions aren't there to get us reparations. Your opinions aren't there to do anything we need to do in terms of white supremacy. Then we don't need your opinions regarding anything that happens in our community.
Right.
So I love what you're doing in this group. I think it is so important. It's so important. It really is amazing. So tell us what's next for you and where people can find you before we sign off.
Well, it's pretty simple. Just find me on IG. Where Kings Reign is exactly how it's spelled. And all the stuff that I'll be doing I'll update people on there, like when I have my next group or when something else is coming up. Currently, I'm just doing revisions. I'm doing like rewriting my feature script. I already had a feature script. I've had meetings with companies and people. So I'm just taking meetings for like maybe some writing gigs because I'm still broke. You know what I'm saying? So I'm looking for writing gigs. I'm taking meetings with some production companies who might want to help out the feature. So that's sort of where we're at. Like trying to make a feature, man. Trying to make a feature film, and it's gonna happen. And just waiting for when everything like clicks in. You know what I'm saying? So really, that's what it is.
It's gonna happen.
Oh, for sure. I mean, and like I said, meetings are already happening. Big meetings are already happening as we speak. So. We just waiting on which one who's gonna say yes first. You know
right on. So before we let you go, talk about the Sundance experience.
Sundance experience was incredible, but because it was virtual, it probably was a bit muted because once it went to virtual, I'm broke, so I was like, I still gotta go to work. So I told my job, I'm not gonna go work. I'm not gonna work these 2 weeks. I'm going to Utah. And then when it moved to virtual, I was like, well, never mind. So I worked like the whole festival. So I tried to jump in when I could. So my experience during the festival was a bit up and down because I had I had things I had to do. I had to work. But getting in was amazing. Meeting people was amazing. There was little meetups in LA that happened. That was amazing. It was just a great. I guess it's good to feel like the world recognizes your work. Like there's that weird thing of like no one validates me, but then when it happens, you're like, well, actually, maybe it does. I don't know. I don't know. It's such a weird, like weird dynamic, looking for your internal strength, and then also knowing that when people who have money or you're able to break into Hollywood, when Hollywood says, "Oh, this is good, we kind of like you. This is an up and comer." When Hollywood says, "This is an up and comer to pay attention to," you're kind of like, "Huh? Yeah, I am." So it's both
Yeah.
gratifying and incredible, and I feel honored and grateful that like it got in. I didn't know it was going to get in, so I'm just happy and grateful that the people who did work on my short, I'm happy for them because I feel like they get to have a little bit like I worked on this short and it got a Sundance. Because a lot of people worked for free, so
Yeah.
there's a good amount of
Yeah.
people worked for free, so they're trusting that I am like the person who we're supporting. Vic knows what he's doing, and that he's like gifted enough to like do something. And so I'm happy that they get to have something on their resume that is great. So it was an experience in that way. That was amazing. Yeah.
Well, I just have to say again, because it's my nature,
Yes.
that you gave and they received and they gave and you received. It's a
Right.
mutual, it's a collaboration. I
Yeah.
need you to learn how to not feel indebted to people the way in which you do, because that's what we were taught, way
I
back
do. I
when.
do struggle feeling dead to people. I do. I do feel. I do.
Yeah.
I do struggle
And
with that.
so I want to constantly reframe that for our communities, that we don't have to be endlessly indebted. We've given a lot. We show up a lot. We've done a
Right.
lot. And so when we receive, we get to receive. And we
Mhm.
get to receive without feeling like we have to give it back, do twice as much. So
Right.
I want you got enough pressure on you with how you're going to blow up and what that's going to look like. So
Yeah.
I need you to not feel as indebted. You are deserving. And we wish nothing but the best for you. You know how much I love you.
Yeah. I love you too. Appreciate you.
Comes from the heart, brother. So, I say we do this every 6 months, see where you are, figure out what's going on.
I'm with it. I'm with it.
Right
I'm
on.
always with it. I'm always with it.
Right on. We'll stay in touch. Keep me abreast of what's going on, and
We'll
we'll
do.
be reaching out to you. Okay.
Okay.
Great to see you, Vic. Thank you.